As buzzwords like crypto, Bitcoin, and NFT become ever more embedded in our daily lives and society as a whole, it's no surprise that academic institutions would be some of the first to consider how blockchain might impact their faculty, students, alumni, and communities in general. On this episode, I sit down with a member of Bentley University who will share how Bentley is currently accepting crypto for tuition and gifts, leveraging NFTs to celebrate outstanding community members, and share where he believes universities, like Bentley, will be able to lean into and benefit from blockchain. Nasisi is this episode's guest, and as you'll see throughout the episode, he's on the forefront of using blockchain to enhance the university experience, and in my opinion, future-proof the institution of higher education to the transformations brought on by Web3 and crypto. I'm Jarrett Carpenter, and this is More Than Blockchain. Saul, welcome to More Than Blockchain. How are you doing?
Great, Jared. Nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me on. Really excited about it.
Well, thanks for inviting me into your home. It's not all the time where I get to sit down with somebody, and thank you for being open to that, to the IRL experience.
Absolutely. Sometimes you just want to be in person. So
Exactly.
Especially nice change.
It's a beautiful change. So today let's talk crypto, blockchain, everything under the sun. And I think I want to build the context as to how you and I met. You and I met on LinkedIn, and I saw a post that you had posted talking about how you had paid for your son's tuition using, and I believe it was USDC, so
That's
a
correct.
stable coin, to you use crypto to pay for education. And I believe that this is at Bentley, which is super cool. So shout out to Bentley, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about Bentley. But break me down how long Bentley has been receiving crypto. And for you as someone paying tuition, why did because someone listening to this is like, why would he just use dollars? So why were you excited to use USDC?
So let's go back a little bit. Bentley has a new president. He came in last year, President Brent Crite. And he's pretty forward thinking about in a lot of different areas. And one of the areas that's really excited him is crypto. And so we had done some crypto work, which we can talk about a little bit in the NFT space. And I think he was thinking, what's the next thing that Bentley can do to show its leadership in this area? And so he thought, why don't we allow people to pay their tuition in crypto? Let's meet them where people are. If people have cryptocurrency and that's how they want to send us their money, then let's be a forward-looking university and accept that. And so Bentley is one of the first universities, there are a few others, but one of the first to accept crypto for tuition payments, and we also accept it for gifting if people want to send a donation to the school. So we partnered with Coinbase, and through Coinbase, people are able to pay in Bitcoin, Ethereum, or USDC. So I've been involved in that project. It's an exciting project to make it happen. And to me, one of the biggest opportunities is for international students. So right now, it's difficult for international students to send their tuition payments. And there are other companies, I actually worked for one at one point, that help facilitate international tuition payments, but they're still relatively expensive and relatively slow. It can take a day, 2 days, 3 days for your tuition payment to come overseas and actually settle into Bentley's account. And so crypto seemed like a good solution for it. We always hear about how crypto can help in the payment space. It can help with remittances. And I think that's definitely the case. And so when I crunched the numbers, I saw that for someone overseas, if they wanted to send a payment in Bitcoin, Ethereum, or especially USDC, they could save potentially thousands of dollars over the course of their time, someone going 4 years through the university experience. And it was also a faster and better payment experience. I wanted to see what that experience was like myself. And so I had some USDC in my account. USDC to me makes the most sense because it's not volatile. It doesn't move up and down. And it seemed like a great application and a way to pay. And so I tried it out. I tested it. I thought, let me see what the experience is. And it worked. It worked perfectly. There were a few small things that I sort of had to work through in the payment experience. And so I think, as we've probably all experienced with the crypto world, the interface is not always as good as we would like it. I think the UX is still evolving, but overall it was a smooth experience. And so, yeah, probably one of the first people in the world to have to pay their child's tuition with crypto.
When you think, and we're going to get into your own history with your own personal experience with fintech and then moving into crypto and blockchain, but what you just said I think is really important because it kind of gives credence to the moment. It puts the moment on the map. And what I mean is there was a time, maybe 15, 20, 30 years ago, I'm not exactly sure, when the first payment was made for tuition using a wire transfer. And at the time, that must have seemed like, wow, that's kind of crazy when people were still using checks, or I'm sure far enough back when also education was a little bit more affordable. Maybe people were using cash, but that is a really great way to think that, maybe it is the first time someone has used, or in the first couple thousand times, someone has used crypto to pay for tuition. That is super cool. And it doesn't surprise me that there aren't, that it's not as frictionless as we'd like it, because the UX in crypto is still, it's catching up, and that's okay. Transitioning from that into your own personal history with fintech, and how that, I'm sure, has probably naturally brought you into blockchain, into crypto, into the world of Web3, into NFTs, and this type of new technology that's going to allow, as you've said, for the exchange of economic energy to be easier for people around the world. Talk to me a little bit about that.
I worked for Fleet Boston for about 6 years, and then we were bought by Bank of America, and so I worked at Bank of America. So I worked within the guts of the financial system for quite some time. And then, as I said, I worked for a payments company. And one of the things that was very clear to me is that it's very difficult for startup companies to gain access to the rails and the banking system. The banks, for some good reasons, want to make sure that not everyone can gain access. They're there to protect the system, but I think they also want to protect it for their own sake too. They don't want to let competitors in. And one of the things that has excited me about crypto and blockchain is that sort of turns it upside down. Anyone can access the blockchain with a few lines of code, and so it really breaks open, that monopoly that big institutions have had on the banking sector and on the financial sector, and allows for a much more rapid pace of innovation. And to me, that's one of the most interesting things. And I think that that's not just true in financial services; it's true across industries. And we're seeing that with the pace of innovation in the NFT space, in the arts, with creativity. We're seeing it with supply chains, and I think that's only going to accelerate. To me, there's some question. The One of the things you hear when you talk to a lot of people who are deep into crypto is they want to keep things decentralized, right? That's one of the big mantras that's out there. It's questionable to me whether or not we can move forward, make crypto easy to use, and keep it as decentralized as we want to. But that's a whole nother conversation. So.
On Not Crypto Bros, and that's another podcast that I'm a part of. We've been talking about that extensively, and the analogy I kind of made was like the way I think the world needs to and is open to getting off fossil fuels. We can't just turn that off and go to renewables. There's going to be a long transition period, and I feel the same way about our more centralized world into some form of decentralization, and not everything can just be decentralized overnight. And for scalability, which we're about to find out this next week with the merge, we're going to find out, how decentralization and centralization play a part. So moving back to Bentley, though, because I want to stay there. And one of the things that we had talked about before we got on the mic here was Bentley's NFT. You said, do you want to learn about how I'm helping Bentley create an NFT? And the answer is undoubtedly yes, because I believe that NFT technology is going to be a big part of our world. And a lot of people are going to probably interact with it over the next 5 to 10 years and not even know that they've been interacting with NFTs due to how embedded I think it will be. So please tell me more about why they're building an NFT and how you're helping out in that
Yeah,
process.
yeah, and we actually built an NFT already. So I think we were the first university that I know of to create a fully functional NFT. There was a university before us that built an NFT on some other sort of more obscure blockchain, and it really couldn't be traded. But we built the NFT on Ethereum using OpenSea. And so I'll back up and I'll tell you the story. We had a coach at Bentley, a women's basketball coach named Barbara Stevens, who is one of the most winningest coaches in NCAA history. And she was being enshrined into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, along with in her class Kobe Bryant, Kevin Garnett, so Tim Duncan, some of the big names of basketball. And so I thought, well, this might be an opportunity for us to do something beyond just the typical PR that accompanies, an event like that. And at the time, NFTs were starting to percolate. This was March of 2021. They were starting to get more popular. People were talking about them. And so I went and spoke to my boss, who was the head of the marketing group at the time. It still is. And we started brainstorming how can we use NFT technology to make this something more. And so I started to investigate it a little bit. And I came up with the technology to do it. And the technology actually is not that difficult. If anybody's created an NFT, minting one on OpenSea is not that difficult. It's actually all of the support that needs to go in behind the NFT that's more difficult. It's getting the legal team to feel comfortable with it. And so we had to educate the legal side of Bentley and make sure that they were comfortable with it. The finance side, the university had never held crypto before, and we needed to have a wallet with Ethereum. And so people had to get comfortable with that. It wasn't a lot of money, but still, it was the first time the university technically had Ethereum on its books. And there was a lot of hand holding, a lot of education, but eventually we got people comfortable. Then there was also how many of these do you offer? What types of NFTs do you offer? Do you do an auction? Do you just offer them at a fixed price? And so we had to really think through how we wanted to do it, knowing that this was really a learning experience for us. It was the first time that we had offered this, the first time that a university had offered this. There really wasn't much of a roadmap to go on. But we eventually wound up offering two different NFTs. Both were video NFTs. They were clips of her at different times, kind of seminal moments in her career. And we put them out there and they sold. We didn't sell all of them because we had copies of one of them. We had multiple copies of one of them, but we sold a decent number of them. So we were pretty happy with that experiment.
Can you talk to me more about the collection? Because, anyone who's into NFTs know that the PFP craze with Bored Apes and that type of stuff, we're normally talking about 10,000. That's kind of what you're going to do. What was the number? So it sounds like you had one that was maybe a one-off, a one of one, and which is
Correct.
amazing. And then you had, I don't know, maybe another collection with 100, or how many did you have?
Yeah, that's correct. We had one that was totally unique, so really was, non-fungible. And then we had another where there were 100 in that collection. And so the unique one we sold at auction, and the ones that we had 100 of, we sold for a fixed price. So that was sort of how we structured it.
That's amazing, because I'm very much for having a fewer amount of NFTs in a collection and just increasing the quality than having 10,000. For me, it's absolutely incredible to think that a university created an NFT to kind of enshrine and pay homage to an athletic coach. I played college soccer, and I would think that would be super cool. Just, on senior night, they all get a one of one NFT for having played the sport, which is super cool. Maybe the NCAA, creates one for every athlete, if you think about that. What was the process like for you as someone who is a crypto and blockchain enthusiast who works at Bentley, right? What was it? You're talking about the hand holding, because I think that is where you and I probably spend a bulk of our time, which is talking about why people should be interested in this space, why NFTs. Talk to me about that process, because when you talk about it now, it sounds like, oh yeah, it took 5 minutes. You sat down, you presented your deck, everyone was like, yeah, this is a great idea, Saul. We're going to go ahead with it. But the story in my head is it took months.
It didn't take actually that long. I think, and credit to Bentley, that they're pretty open-minded about trying new things. There definitely was a process where I think I first proposed it and people kind of laughed a little bit and the idea sort of died. And then I brought it up a second time. And at this point, the NFT craze was really starting to take off. And so, people paid a little bit more attention. And like I said, my boss, I think, had started to dabble and take a look at NFTs also. And so he was supportive of it. And that fit into the culture of the university. And, it probably wouldn't work in a lot of other places, but at Bentley, it did. And so there was definitely support to try something. I think we weren't under any illusions that it would take off and, the NFTs would sell for millions of dollars. I think we knew that this was an experiment and we'll see where it goes. And so we approached it in that spirit, and the spirit of let's try to learn what this space is about so that we can apply it in the future and we can just get a better grasp on what's happening out there. And because of that, it moved relatively quickly. I mean, it did take time to kind of work through legal, and it took a little bit of time to work through finance, but it wasn't like a 6 to 9 month project. The whole thing probably unveiled in a couple of months.
That's pretty good. I think that
Yeah.
moving a educational institution to get them onboarded into Web3 essentially. I'm very impressed. So my hat is off to you for having done that. Who, and now I want to talk, I'm just so curious about the technical side of this because I think when you talk about, for me, when I talk about Web3, I'm thinking like individuals, like I have an NFT that you want to buy from. So we're just going to swap it, right? I own the keys to my wallet. You own the keys to your wallet. That's great. Coinbase, you said, helped out with the tuition, helped you guys to liaise that.
Right.
Who helped you here? Because it sounds like you were just on OpenSea, which, who, well, basically, I want to get down to who has the wallet that is tied to this NFT. I'm assuming it's the university, but is it a multi-sig wallet where like you and a couple other faculty members are on it? How does that work? Who owns, who's in charge of that? Maybe you're not at liberty to say, but I'm thinking that to me is one of the quagmires that it's a hurdle that needs to get, crossed in order to execute.
Absolutely. I think that because it wasn't a huge amount of money, on the wallet, it wasn't probably that big of a deal. So, we did it through a MetaMask wallet, and I have the keys, and then my boss does, and then someone in the finance department has the keys. It's not multi-sig. We just all have the keys to the wallet, and we can access it. But I think over time, as these projects scale up and as the amount of crypto on the wallet increases, then you're right. I think there's going to need to be a better way to manage it. And that's an opportunity for an entrepreneur out there for sure.
Yeah, because that's one of the things I think I run into, and I know other people in Web3. A guy came on, Brent Craig, and he is a total Web3 entrepreneur, and he does many different contracts with people, and I think they have a lot of multi-sig wallets. I also know the guy who's come on, Crypto Bushi, he's in multi-sig wallets with people. It's just a way to keep transparency, especially with people that you're building with that maybe you've never met and you only have that cyber connection. So Bentley has now created an NFT to pay homage to an athletic coach. Amazing. They've dipped their toe in Web3. Like you said, it may have been the first time they had Ethereum on their books. They're now accepting cryptocurrency for tuition in the form of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and USDC. What are the next steps and what is your like long-term vision for this? Because for me, long-term, I want to throw a couple things out. One, I think you're going to get your diploma as an NFT. It will be phygital. So you'll have your digital as well as the physical one, which, you would always see on doctors' offices. But I think in the future, when people are in the metaverse, you're going to have that on your, in the metaverse, in Sandbox or wherever. So one is a phygital diploma. And then the other one is, are they going to continue? Are they going to up and use different currencies other than Bitcoin, Ethereum, and USDC?
Let's start with that on the tuition side. So what happens with that, just to clarify, is that Bentley doesn't actually hold any crypto. Coinbase actually converts the crypto into a fiat currency, into dollars, before it hits our books. So we only receive dollars. So part of the question of are we going to accept more crypto really comes down to, is Coinbase going to expand the crypto that they accept for these types of programs? Right now, they're just offering those three. I would imagine over time that choice will expand as they continue to develop their sort of commerce platform. And I hope it will, certainly as other cryptos become more widely used. So in terms of what's next for Bentley and for universities in general, I think that's an interesting question. Definitely the diploma makes a lot of sense to me. And, it's something we've had a few preliminary discussions at Bentley about it. I think MIT at one point was offering blockchain-based diplomas. I don't know if they still are. But definitely, you always hear about someone who claims that they have a degree from Harvard or a degree from some other institution and they don't. That would end all of that. It would certainly make it easier to do background checks on people. So there are a lot of practical reasons for having diplomas and credentials in general move to the blockchain. And I imagine that will happen over time. I think also universities play a role in educating students on blockchain technology. And there are very few courses out there that actually focus in curriculum that focus on blockchain. And I hope that that's going to change over time. I was actually on a call with some students from MIT's blockchain group, MIT and then Sloan School. And I was asking them, are there a lot of courses in the curriculum? And they were saying there wasn't. And I was like, wow, if MIT is not offering blockchain and crypto, then pretty much no one out there is. And so I'm hoping that will continue to grow at universities. I mean, one thing that I think would be really interesting, it's an idea that I've toyed around with, and no university has taken it up yet, is when students come in, have them take a blockchain 101 or include it in there. Bentley has an IT 101 course where you kind of go over the basics of the web, and you go over how to use spreadsheets, and you go over, kind of networking. It's like give every student a wallet with like $10 of crypto on it, because I really feel that when you have a wallet and when you have ownership of crypto, it changes your perspective. It sort of flips the way that you think about crypto, and it brings you into that world. And so to me, that's one of the ways that universities and institutions can help to expand knowledge and use of blockchain and crypto.
It's funny that you're talking about this. Is literally last night I was talking to my father, and you saw the tote bag I have when I came in today. It's from the new school. That's where I went to graduate school. I did my graduate work there in international affairs. And I was saying to my dad last night, one thing I want to get done in the next year, probably honestly by January, because if I don't put a short time stamp on it, I'm not going to get it done. I'll allow we're human beings, is go to them and say, hey, I want to create a Web3 curriculum, or, here's my 14 classes that I want to do in a course, and I want to give the kids the credits. They're going to get credits. This is really important that they learn about this. And the other thing is they're going to get a diploma that's going to be an NFT from my little course. And it's also something that could be, it could be a link class between Bentley and the new school, because maybe it's just all online. I sometimes spend time in Colombia. I move around. So that was an interesting thing. And I want to talk about what we had talked about which is exactly what you're talking about now, which is when you just give someone, if you just go out and just say, here's $10 in Bitcoin. Let me open you up a wallet. Here's $10 in Bitcoin. Is Bentley open to your suggestion of doing that? Because you could just take the tuition that the kids already give you, add it in, right? They get on campus. Hey, welcome to Bentley. Here's IT 101. And also, we have IT 101 and we have blockchain 101. I'm not sure how you do it, but giving them because once someone has a wallet, I don't know anyone that has a wallet that hasn't wanted to learn more, I guess is my point. So is Bentley close to that idea? Because I think it's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that it's an idea that I have. It hasn't really been circulated very widely, so it's something that I'll continue to sort of advocate for. Whether it'll happen anytime soon, I don't know. But hopefully, people will listen to this, and if they work for a university, they'll think about doing it also. So yeah, I guess time will tell. I don't know about Bentley yet.
Time will tell, but I feel like maybe they'll listen to this, or it will just come around and then they'll do it. Because
Yeah.
$10 in Bitcoin or $10 in USDC or $10 in Ethereum, I think is something that is really great. Because even if somebody gets $10 and then they end up putting a little bit more money in the account, with the way things are now with minting, they're very close to being able to mint something, and then they're into NFTs.
Right.
So they're they're on the cusp of falling down the rabbit hole that maybe you and I spend more
Yeah,
time in.
right. And I do think that at one point MIT may have given their students a Bitcoin back in the early days. So imagine that they gave their students a Bitcoin at the time. Maybe it was worth like, $50, and then it grew now to be worth 20,000. So it paid for their tuition, or at least a chunk of it.
And with that, you've led me right into where I want to go, which is giving crypto, gifting. This is something we've talked about on mic, and I'm excited to talk about it on mic because I don't think I've actually touched upon this. And this is actually going to be my 40th episode, and I haven't even talked about gifting crypto.
Congratulations, by the way, 40.
Thank you.
That's-
Yeah, you're a number 40.
I'm honored.
It's a very round number. I have friends. I'm in the age, mid 30s. I'm in the age where all my friends are having kids. And one of the things that I like to do to give to my friends who have young children is put money in, and I'm going to blank on the number of the account because I don't have children, but the account that for their education. And it's kind of like their, little baby 401k for education.
Yeah, 501 plan, I think.
Okay, 501.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is, no, I'd rather give you $100. Let's set you up a wallet, and I'll give you $100 in Bitcoin every year for the kid. And that's what I want to do, or $1,000, or whatever the number is, because of the power of gifting. So how do you see gifting playing a role? If you want to talk about Bentley, we can, or just in society.
Yeah, well, I think that, as you mentioned, and we kind of alluded to it with at Bentley, or with the idea of giving everybody crypto, that is a powerful way of getting people involved in crypto, getting them to, think about it and watch it. Because I've gifted a ton of people crypto for weddings, for graduations, for different life events. And whenever I gift it to someone, they always are like, "Wow, well, you've given me crypto. Okay, what do I do?" And then they call me, a week or two later, and they're like, "Well, I've been following it, and my son or my daughter's been following it." And I had one person that we gifted it to, and they called me, maybe 3 months later. This is when Bitcoin was up at 60,000. They're like, "Wow, that Bitcoin that you gave me is now worth like 6 times what you gave it to me for, and we're putting in our safe deposit. We're putting the paper wallet that you gave me into the safe deposit box because it's actually quite valuable. And so to me, it's an education and it's an investment in the future because I think, you know, I believe, and probably, you do too, that crypto is going to continue, blockchain is going to continue to grow. And these different tokens will grow in value along with it. So for someone who believes, who wants to educate, who wants to provide a good investment for someone, it's a great way, I think, to get all three of those. And so I've been doing it. I started a website. It's called giftabit.today, which provides instructions on how you can easily gift crypto to someone, whether you want to do it as a paper wallet, which I actually think works best because it's something tangible that you can actually hand to them, and they don't have to do anything with it. They can just stick it in a safe or a drawer or a safety deposit box. But it also explains how to do a software wallet.
I had no idea that you have giftabit.today, which is amazing. How many do you have analytics on that? How many people are visiting the site? Are you pushing it at all? I didn't know about this, so this is cool.
I don't really push it too much. It's just something there. I haven't had the time to work on it too much. I had analytics. It was getting some decent traffic, but actually the analytics plugin that I had on WordPress crashed the whole site, so I had to pull it off. At some point, I'll go back and put Google Analytics back on it, but yeah, it's out there. So if anybody wants, information on how to gift or the easiest way to do it, it's all there. There are printouts, there are forms, there are paper wallets that you can generate. So it's, the thing I would say though, going back to another theme that we talked about, is that I have to have a whole website to explain how to gift. So the website provides the instructions. It's easy if you follow it step by step, but it's still pretty hard to do. And that just gets back to the fact that crypto has a lot of work and blockchain has a lot of work to go in terms of getting a UX that's easy for everyone to use.
Yeah, Coinbase is, I think, for me, the best UX. I think some of the payment apps like Venmo, Cash App, and PayPal, now that they have places where people can buy crypto, their UX is also, like I like to say, billionaire, R&D. It's not, finance is a little clunky, even though I think it's, with the fees, it's a place I like to buy and sell. Gifting, Bentley, if there's a really, this millionaire, billionaire donor from Bentley wants to gift, is that going to be through Coinbase? Would Coinbase help you guys do that?
Correct. Yeah. So we're set up to accept tuition and gifts through Coinbase. Now, if someone just wanted to gift, their wallet to Bentley, I don't think Bentley's going to turn it away. But I think that triggers a whole nother process. The gifting committee has to look at it. I'm not entirely familiar with that. I think that it's a little bit more complicated. So I think that's what universities are going to have to kind of think through over the next few years, because there's $1 trillion of crypto out there, and some of that will eventually be gifted. So how do institutions deal with that? Not just universities, but the arts, anyone that accepts donations.
Yeah, because I know I think it's called the gifting block. They are kind of the middleman between donors and nonprofits right now when it comes to crypto, and I think they accept 220 different cryptocurrencies, which is great. And I'm excited to see that, but I'm very interested to see where the gifting is going to go. And one of the things I wanted to share with you, which I didn't share with you off mic, but I'm excited to share now on mic, and I've not shared this with anybody more than blockchain, is that I've recently accepted a position with Mercy Corps, who does international affairs work, and I have my background in that, and that's really where I find my passion. And I'm going to be their first ever crypto fundraiser.
Oh, wow.
So
That's great.
yeah, so to be working with people who have crypto, and that's how they want to, exchange economic energy, as I say, whether that's I want to give to this foundation or this organization like Mercy Corps. That's kind of where I'm stepping in, because I do think, as you said, it's the easiest way also for the international community to kind of exchange their value with US based entities. And going back to Bentley, do you guys have any numbers about the student body, the international student body, and whether they're leveraging crypto to pay tuition so they can save, as you said, thousands of dollars over the lifetime of a student at the school?
I haven't spoken to the finance department yet, but that's something that I plan to do, and hopefully we'll see that continue to ramp up. I don't know how many paid this last tuition cycle, so.
Because that's something that would be very interesting to learn and probably make it even an easier sell as something that you want to expand on more in the kind of, I think you're in the marketing department, right? So
Correct.
That is when you say marketing for a university, you're really just trying to tell the university's story, the value the students are going to get, what they get after when they leave, also their experience while they're there on campus. How big of a play does crypto play right now? Because in my head, it's probably less than 5% that we accept crypto, that we're doing crypto, that your son or daughter or your child can take a blockchain course. How much of that is at the forefront of what Bentley's doing right now?
I think Bentley's still evolving its position on crypto, like a lot of institutions, and still trying to find its niche there. So, you know, the most active sort of part of the crypto community on Bentley is the Bentley Blockchain Group. It's a student-led organization, and they're pretty active. They meet regularly. They talk about crypto. I know the head of the blockchain group, the organization, meets with the president on a somewhat regular basis, and so they're kind of the energy behind a lot of what's happening in crypto on the campus. We do have these projects that we also worked on, the tuition and the NFT. So I think there are pockets of people that are thinking about crypto, and I think some of the faculty are starting to work on crypto and blockchain. And we just kind of need to pull it all together, and I think that will happen over time. So
So there's a prospective student and they want to come to Bentley and they run into you and you're like, you're out there to wave the Bentley flag. And as it happens, and I remember when I still remember going on my college tours because I went with my mother for most of them. And we didn't really ask a lot of questions. We were just kind of very curious. And, we'd ask questions here or there, but it was more quality over quantity. But it was always interesting to see the other questions that the parents would ask about the university. What are questions, if someone comes to you and they're like, all right, Saul, you do digital marketing for Bentley, you're into crypto, you're into blockchain. Why should I care that Bentley is into crypto, is into Web3s, into NFTs? Because my child has gotten into Bentley and XYZ University. XYZ University is not as into this, but Bentley is. Why should I go with Bentley? Because of their open-mindedness to this new technology. How would you think about answering that?
yeah, I think I would just say that crypto is one of the and blockchain, because I like to, they're not necessarily one and the same. They're both there. Is going to be one of the futures, in my opinion, one of the technologies of the future. And so, if you want to position your child to provide them with exposure to something that is going to generate a ton of jobs, a ton of opportunity, a ton of economic wealth, a ton of equity, because I think there's a whole case that can be made that the blockchain can drive equity across the world, then you want your son or daughter to have exposure to it. And why not go to a place that's open-minded and thinking through these questions and can provide that exposure? As a matter of fact, I had a parent who reached out to me on LinkedIn, much like you did. Actually, I was connected through the Boston Blockchain Group. I received an email from someone in the Boston Blockchain Group that knew that I worked at Bentley, and this woman's daughter was going to Bentley also. And so she wanted to connect with me. She wanted to learn about what was happening on campus with blockchain and crypto. And so I, communicated with the daughter. I told her about the Bentley Blockchain Group. I connected her with the president of the group. And so, I'm already starting to get inquiries from people who are interested in the space and want their child to have exposure to it.
I couldn't have said that better myself. And I think that hit on something that we spoke about off mic, which is that there's still a lot of hesitance to invest time and energy, even just personal time and energy on the weekend. Why am I going to watch a YouTube on Web3? And when you now talk with your college friends or in your personal life, what are the conversations that you're having around this space? Because I ask this because sometimes, if you and I are sitting in the room, it's like, this is the way the life is. This is the way the world is. What else is there? Ethereum. But for other people, like 95% of my IRL like connections, and including family, it's not always as apparent. So where's there been pushback? Like, hey, Saul, like that's kind of crazy stuff.
I got into crypto pretty early. I think I bought my first crypto from Coinbase in like 2014 or 2015. So I've been sort of talking about it since then. And back then, people looked at me like they didn't know what I was talking about. And then in 2018, when we sort of saw that first surge, people were interested, and they'd ask me questions about it and we'd have conversations about it. And then, of course, it crashed and it was crypto winter and there was no discussion anymore. People kind of forgot about it. And then we had the other big surge and people got interested in it again. And I actually had a Telegram group with friends and we would communicate about it. And message each other. And then there was the most recent crash, and things have gone sort of quiet again. So I think crypto for the general public tends to follow that, hype cycle a little bit. When things are rolling and prices are going up, people are paying attention. And when we're in a downturn, people kind of tune out and they think about other things. I think the challenge for us in the crypto world is to keep moving forward, even though we're in a downturn, and realize that, this is the down before the next up, because that's what happens in the technology world. I mean, I was listening to a speech about Amazon, and Amazon had 10 booms and busts before it reached the level that it's at now. So this is just how technology works, and you just have to, keep plugging along and realizing that there will be another upturn as well as probably another downturn. So things have gone a little bit quiet right now, but I think that, that will change, and we'll continue to mature the industry and continue to educate so that the next upswing is even bigger than the last one.
As a crypto enthusiast and someone who's been around it for a long time, 2014 is extremely OG in this space. I think it was like 80 or 70 to 80% of new wallets came in 2021. I mean, you know, if you've been around since 2014, you're in the percent of a percent. What's one thing you've been following since 2014 that you continue to believe is going to be around? And then what's something newer that you're seeing in this crypto winter? Because I'm seeing a lot of new use cases, whether it's NFTs, DAOs, or dApps, just all these kinds of things that are coming out. Where's your focus? Like, where's the long-term focus that you've been with since you're kind of your day one? And then where's the new thing that you're like, wow, this is really cool, and I think this is gonna have some real utility for a lot of people.
Yeah, so I think long term, I've kind of been interested in the payment space. I can't remember when sort of stablecoin started. It was probably more of a 2018 thing. So I think initially I was just sort of interested in Bitcoin and whether or not it could work as a payment mechanism, and just sort of fascinated by the fact that it was distributed, that all the reasons that I think many people get interested in it. I can't say I was particularly following any specific project. Then in 2018, the whole stablecoin movement kind of caught my attention, and I think what Circle's doing with USDC is really neat and has a lot of potential. There are a bunch of other stablecoin projects out there that I think will be pretty cool too. But stablecoins from a payment perspective get rid of all the volatility, which makes it difficult to make a payment. So that's why I think there's a lot of promise there. I think another project that I was following, and this is sort of a cross between DeFi and NFTs, was this project from Cross Chain Capital, which was a DAO, an investment DAO. And they had this project called Hunt. And it was really fascinating to me because what they were doing is they were fractionalizing the profits from a play to earn game called Crabata, and they were paying it out through NFTs. And so they were basically financializing or using NFTs to fractionalize financial payments. And so you could buy the NFT, and that gave you a stake in the earnings that these crabs were getting within the game. So
These crabs.
yeah, it was. I don't know if you've heard of Crabata, but
I haven't. This is
yeah,
why I love talking with people, because there's so much out there. Okay, so was
yeah.
this in my head? This is like in a Decentraland casino or some game, or was it not? Like,
No, no, it
where was
wasn't.
this being played?
It was like the Axie Infinity type of game.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha,
So
gotcha.
it was sort of in that mold, and I mean it was really interesting to watch because people who bought in were super excited. They thought that this was going to make them, that they were going to get rich off of it, and there was a lot of energy, a lot of excitement, and I was sort of interested in the technology behind it and how they were sort of rolling it out. Then we had the latest crash, and it sort of wiped the whole project out. I mean, it was sad to see that happen, and a lot of people lost money. I think that they probably sold over $1 million of these NFTs over the course of the 5 or 6 months that they were operating. So the project has been suspended, unfortunately. But to me, what it sort of showed is another, to the point you made earlier, another way that you can use NFTs. NFTs are not just for artwork or having a JPEG or whatever. You can actually use it to distribute value and to fractionalize profits. So that to me has been was a fascinating thing to watch. And there are a couple of other projects that are starting up in this space also. So I'm kind of following them.
Yeah, which ones? Because since this one's kind of done and dusted, and I'm sure people have learned a lot, you and anyone else tied to the community, or watched it, rise and fall. What are some other ones? Because I asked that selfishly because I want to go check them out.
Yeah, I forget. I'm gonna get the name of this wrong, but I think it's like Ink or something like that. I'll have to. I should have written it down beforehand, but I forgot. It's Ink I think INCOOOM. But I think if you type that into Google, you'll probably find the right project. So
I'll look it up, and if you find it, we'll put it in the show notes
yeah,
so people check out the show notes. I'm just constantly fascinated with how much, what you've talked about with DeFi, play to earn, and NFTs. When you put all that together, and if you've never seen any of this, and you come into Web3, it's like, oh wow, I'm in a different world. I assume it must be like when the guy falls into the video, the game in Tron, where he's like, this exists. I wanted to ask. So your son goes to Bentley
correct.
now. Is his dad cool on campus for being into blockchain, or is he crazy? Cool?
Yeah, I think I'd be considered cool. I mean,
Okay.
I'm a blockchain guy. Bentley is a business school, so it's focused on business. So it's kind of a business/technology play. I think that the crypto people they're kind of considered a little bit out there on the cutting edge. When I was doing the internet back in, well, I don't know if I want to date myself too much, but back in 1997, I was in business school and I was doing, starting my first internet company. And all of my classmates looked at me like, are you crazy? Like, aren't you going to go work at McKinsey or Bain or whatever? I said, no, I wanted to do the internet. This is where the future is. So I think that some people probably look at me as a little bit out there, but probably the majority think, well, hey, it's cool what he's doing. So hopefully that's how they perceive me and how his friends perceive me.
I'm sure that I do believe that that's the case. And actually, for me, being a kid when the internet came up, I wasn't at a place where I wasn't in my entrepreneurial mode, so I didn't have that chance to be like, no, I don't want to work at McKinsey. I want to start this internet company. Do you see parallels between that, where, the internet and blockchain and crypto to where it is now?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, the parallels are all over the place. I mean, and where it really struck me is I went to an event at MIT maybe 4 years ago on blockchain, and it had that same feeling and that same energy that the internet had in its early days. So it's to me it's very similar. You have a lot of people who have a lot of utopian ideas about where they want it to go, whether or not, I think the internet went down a path that some people consider, not as good. I mean, I think that, you look at the internet and there's a lot of positives that came out of it. There's also a dark side. And I think the same thing will probably happen to crypto, but hopefully we can do a little better job even steering the direction of crypto. I do want to say one thing, going back to your question before about, my son on Bentley. I will say that I have another son who is a sophomore at the University of Maryland. And so he started the crypto blockchain group there. So I think that I inspired him, or at least I hope I inspired him a little bit.
I'm fairly certain. I feel like I can say I'm fairly certain you definitely inspired that. Let's wrap up here. And before we do that, I'd love to give you a chance to share where people can get in touch with you. I obviously found you on LinkedIn, but where can people get in touch with you if they want to say, Saul, talk to me more? If they're part of an academic institution, either as an alumni and they want to influence, either they have a student there currently as you do, or they just want to learn more.
Probably LinkedIn is the best place. I think I have a Twitter account also, Saul.Nasisi. I'm not as active on Twitter. I'm more active on LinkedIn. So feel free to reach out to me there. And love to hear from people. I mean, I'm actively kind of looking at different projects, both to get involved in and to help fund. So beyond just helping to answer any questions, if you're a student who's thinking about attending a university and you're thinking about Bentley, feel free to reach out to me because I'd love to talk to you about what's happening on campus from a crypto and blockchain perspective. And if you're working on a cool project and want some guidance or assistance or potential funding, I'm happy to talk to you also.
Perfect. Well, thanks for hopping on, and this has been great.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it and have enjoyed it, Jared.
Thanks for listening to this episode, and to reach out to Saul on LinkedIn or Twitter to check out his gifting website and or to check out the project he mentioned. Please see the show notes for all of these links. And a big thanks to Saul and his wife, Allison, for welcoming me into their home to record this episode. As always, please follow us on social media at More Than Blockchain, And to learn more about the pod or to contact me, please visit our website at morethanblockchain.xyz. No matter where you're listening to this episode, please go ahead and subscribe. And if you feel so inclined, share this link with someone who you think would benefit to learn about how universities are and can use blockchain. Thanks again for checking out More Than Blockchain, and I'll see you next time.